Looks like.
Okay, good evening and welcome to Images e-roundtable. As some of you already know, Images is a society of the alumni of IIMs. We have started this new initiative of e-roundtable. We have a session on every Friday where we try and bring in some new business topic and a few people to talk to you about what is happening in the business world. Today we have the seventh session where we talk about careers in data science under our larger banner of future of work. Uh, the way things are changing, data sciences is becoming a very, very important subject. And we thought some of you would like to know about what it is to work in that space and how you can prepare yourself for that space. Uh, Along with me is Kavita. Kavita is a career and life coach. She's alumni of IIM Ahmedabad 2002 batch and founder of Kavyata. Welcome, Kavita. We also have with us Nitya and Ajay, who Kavita will introduce in a short time. Uh, and I hope you enjoy the session. We will have both the speakers talk about how their experience has been in the data science, and we'll open up the session for questions as we go. Over to you, Kavita.
Thank you, Salil, and good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here on the Images e-roundtable, and thank you, Salil, for creating this forum for learning for all of us. So, Salil, as you all know, wears many hats, and in addition to being the president of Images, he's himself an IIMA alum of 83 batch, and most recently, he's turned an author. So, you can read his book as well, A Chapter Out of My Life. And we have two people, two experts from the field of data science today with us. So very excited to hear from both of them. Nitya Saxena is a data enthusiast, and very happy to have you, Nitya. Nitya is joining us from Singapore, where it's almost 8 o'clock now. So yeah, Nitya has been working in the space of data science and analytics for the last 5 to 6 years, and she's got an advanced degree in economics. She's done her FPM in from IIM Indore, and she's been working in the space of data science and analytics, straddling various domains like banking, health, insurance, nutrition. So, love to hear from you, Nitya, very shortly about how your journey in data science has been. And
Thank you,
welcome,
Kavita.
Ajay. Ajay is also an expert in the field of data science. Ajay is from IIT Delhi and IIM Ahmedabad 2001 batch. Ajay began working in the consulting space, worked with IBM, then he was also with insurance and analytics. And from then he went on to found his own data science company, and that's called Prizmatics. So welcome, Ajay. Good to have you here on this, this exciting show about talking about careers in data science. So I'd like to start with a question to you, Ajay.
Yeah, Kavita, just 1 minute. I wanted to leave one housekeeping announcement. If anybody has questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A box or the chat box, and we will try and integrate it with the discussion that we are having and pose it on your behalf to the speakers. And you can put your questions whenever it comes to your mind, and we'll try and take it up as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Okay. So Ajay, tell us a little bit about what you do right now in the space of data science, you and Prismatics, and also because you're the founder of of a company which is working in this space, you must be having different kinds of roles and the different kinds of work which is done in the space of data science. So give us a little bit of an overview about these different areas and what are the skills that are required to work in each of these.
Thanks, Kavita. Great to be here. Hi to everyone. So yeah, I mean it's now been almost uh, 20 years or so. I graduated like you just said, 2001. So 19 completed, and hopefully 20 very soon. So yeah, I started as a management consultant. I started with PwC, in fact, in their team as a CRM space in the CRM space, and which later became IBM Business Consulting Services. Was with them for almost 4 years. Hardcore management consulting as it was at that time. So what I realized was early on that I was happier, working with Excel than with PPT, as I say. So I mean, I was more, and at that time, consulting wasn't so data heavy. So what is called analytics now. It was not even called analytics. It was more analysis, and hence I realized early on that I was happier doing that work, and hence even there I got involved into data work, and then have been so worked with a couple of corporates, GE, IBM, GE, and then Max Life, and then Bharti Airtel, and then been running Prizmatics for about 6 years now. So Prizmatics, as you asked, is a basically analytics services company. A classical analytics is in analytics services. We are industry agnostic as such. We work across industries. Uh, what we specialize in is, with data, and marketing analytics is a space that we concentrate on. So wherever there is data availability, and customer is looking to understand, their customers, our client is looking to understand their customers, or cross sell, upsell. Uh, we have in fact also done work in other spaces as well. We have done work in logistics. We have done work for not for profits as well. So across, we have had a chance to work in different spaces. Yeah, so I mean, been a wonderful journey for the last 6 years. Different experiences, seen the other side as well.
So Ajay, what do you have to offer to people? What is it to work in the data sciences space? I think let's, what is it that you sort of, and what is it? Is the career different? Is it, does it require a new set of skills?
Yeah,
right. So
the different areas of work itself in data science itself.
Right. So yeah, so data science now is a pretty broad field, right? As I said, it evolved from what was analytics to then predictive modeling or advanced analytics, and then it became, what we used to call as machine learning, and then now, AI, etc. And all of this is typically covered under data science now. So as we see, this is a broad, spectrum. If I were to say, to start with, what are the various areas? So I will just try to give us quick, understanding of what kind of work is covered in this, and then we can connect it with the skills that would be required. So it starts. I think the first level would be what is called as business intelligence, or BI, or with what was classically called as MIS, so to say, older name. We used to do MIS for long, right? We studied that in our MBA courses as well, which was more, looking at data and presenting it in a format which is understandable and towards certain business requirements, right? For taking specific business decisions. So that's pretty much, so being able to look at data, being able to collate it, tabulate it, present it in, user-friendly formats towards helping certain business decisions is how I would define that as BI. Along with, visualizations, being able to make, charts so that it is easier to understand, as they say, one picture is worth 1,000 words. So instead of having to explain that data in a very, cumbersome way, sometimes these charts help a lot. So using these, so this is largely BI, and nowadays there are tools available which one has to use to be able to do this quickly, rather than so classically what we used to do with Excel as well, right? Being able to collate data and then summarize it and then present it in charts, now is being done through tools which make it much easier, which make it much more easier to look at, and interesting ways to represent, and then it's easier to update, etc. So that's BI, so to say. And that's what I think it could be called as beginning. And I'm not covering how this data is prepared. Obviously, that is a different field, but that, strictly speaking, that also should be covered under as a data scientist. People say that the actual analysis, and there was a classical saying, that the actual data analysis is just 20% of the work. 80% of the time you are actually, collating the data, cleaning it, and making it, bringing it in a form that can be analyzed, so to say. But I'm not, for this discussion, we'll cover what is, once the data is ready, how will you use it. So this is one part. The other other side of the thing, the other extreme, I would say, is what is classical, data science, today's data science, where you're developing platforms which analyze large sets of data on a lot of times real time basis. For example, recommendation engines, to give an example. So, whenever we go and shop on, let's say, Amazon, and we see that, we buy a few things or what we have bought in the past, basis that the site itself suggests to us what we might, be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically classical recommendation. And for that, lot of data crunching happens at the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously. And it also doesn't only look at our data, but it also looks at, data of people like us, what is statistically like us, so to say, what are called lookalike models, etc. So it tries to see that, it tries to profile us, and it says, okay, people like your profile typically like to buy these kinds. Along with that, since you have bought these kind of stuff, so this is what I propose that you should be interested in. And this all requires a lot of, as you would understand, requires a lot of processing. So this is data science. You have to have a lot of technology there, a lot of huge data that has to be crunched, uh, and the decisioning has to be very quick, real time. So this is classical. This is other end. Now in between, you could see various levels. So one could be, looking at data instead of just presenting it in a tabulation, tabular format, like we said, MIS. Maybe somebody is looking for more insight. Somebody saying, okay, I know, our sales are going down, but why is it going down? And for that, one would have to do a lot of, what ifs, maybe look at data, slice it, dice it in different ways, and then try to, get more insights out of it and present it to the business, so to say. So that is in between. So that could be called, insight generation, more deeper data analysis, so to say.
Right.
Or what is called as predictive modeling, which is, there is data available, but it is offline. You analyze it, and then you say, okay, these kind of customers have bought this, and hence some of these customers would buy, what else, for example, instead of an online recommendation engine, like we were saying.
So Ajay, let me ask you a question here, and maybe before we move to Nitya, how have you seen the careers change in the last 15 years? So you have been involved with, or you have been actively involved with data sciences for 6 years, but you have been involved with data for many more years. And if I take it back to 30 years, then, data was all about Excel sheets 30 years, right? And suddenly, everything else is changing. So what has been your two key takeaways in terms of significant changes as to how a 21-year-old will look at a career in data today as vis-a-vis what you looked at 20 years ago?
Right. So 20 years back, I think, data and technology were much more separate, so to say. Okay. So what I mean is that mostly people were using data through Excel, etc., and presenting it through visuals as well. But the involvement of technology was still limited there at that time. So there were some tools. So there were people who were using, for example, SPSS. I'm sure, in our MBA courses, we also had those, SPSS being used. But even that was limited, and we were mostly using user interfaces, to analyze some data, for example. That was the most that we were typically involved in. With time, what has happened is, and then there were proprietary tools that people were using, SAS, so to say, SPSS, SAS, etc. What has happened over time is technology has, one, the data size has increased, obviously, so because of which you couldn't analyze it with some of those, Excel tools, etc. The speed of data has also, become faster, and hence a lot of tools have come in, and technology has gotten deeper into it, especially, with open source tools coming in, which are not as user friendly as, let's say, a SAS would be. So whoever is working with data at a larger scale, I believe, has to be more comfortable with technology than he or she, needed to be, let's say, 20 years back, especially in a data science, when we said the other extreme. So for example, if you're developing a recommendation engine, like I gave an example, so one has to have comfort in being able to, know what technology would work, because your speed of data churning, speed of analysis, etc., will all depend on that as well. You are mostly using cloud nowadays for these cloud technology for analyzing this data, etc. So one also has to have some comfort in being able to use, for example, being able to use data on cloud
Right.
and analyze it there. So
Right.
that's the
maybe
large, major
maybe
difference.
we should ask Nitya
Yeah.
how does she view data sciences, because she will bring a completely young perspective, new perspective
Mhm.
to the whole thing.
And yes, yes.
So I started working with data after 2010, after my graduation itself. So I would say that data was always there. But along with smartphones and social media, both of them evolved a lot faster. At that point in time, probably only Facebook, Google, or handful of companies had a vision to capture data and what to do with it. I
Mm-hmm.
used to think why Google is offering a free account. That is such a big deal. But now everyone can understand what they were doing since then. So I think the data science term and data engineering, data visualizations, they were there, but probably they were not crystallized as much as they are today.
Mm.
So ETL was always there, but was called ETL. Different tools were addressed as different tools only. But I think over the 10 years, the streamline has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And now that career has full blown. And to be true, every other career run nowadays is somehow converging into a data related career.
Mm.
So earlier, probably MBA also and like business analysts, they were not dealing with data that much. But
Mm-hmm.
now I think it's very much integrated, and we can also see how MBA colleges are also introducing data analytics into the managerial courses. So
Right, right. Right. So, Nitya, my question to you is about, okay, so what do you think helps people to gain a strong foothold? What kind of skills are required for people to really grow their careers? And what are some of the different areas in which they can see themselves working in this whole, the large umbrella of data science? What could be some areas in which you can, and especially for the audience like this, what could be some of those things?
okay. So again, so I'll just talk about broadly, like in a data science project, what all roles are there. So
Mm-hmm.
firstly, definitely data preparation and data storage. If we are talking about large scale data science projects, data engineer are foundation of it.
Okay.
If there is no data processing and proper storage, speed storage, I would say, and easy retrieval, then data science is not possible. Once data engineer is there, then next we need data architects and data analyst. Above them is data scientists. So data analyst and data scientists, moreover, have very much of overlap in their roles. So these roles I'm talking about in decreasing amount of technological knowledge that they should have. Then comes the data scientist, and after that, actually, there's a new role which is pre-sales in data science.
Hmm.
So if you're a pre-sales person, then you don't have to code on the day in day out basis, but you need to know much more about the available technologies and the growing number of technologies in every field.
Hmm.
Because pre-sales work is actually to carry out POCs, proof of concepts for the client. Client is very new and to data science sometimes, and they don't have any confidence, which tool I should buy, and licenses are not that like few of them are open source, few of them are free, so they don't have that
Okay, Nitya has frozen for some reason.
Yeah.
So can I ask one question, Ajay, while Nitya comes back? So there's a gentleman's, sorry, there is a lady, Sonal, I think, who's asking if you are at mid of your career, what professional path you will suggest to diversify your careers in data science? And she says, I'm in SCM with 20 years experience, already completed MIT's SCMX course, which covers data analytics, software side, and so on.
I'm
And
so
she's looking
sorry,
for some feedback.
I got DC.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
We're just taking up a question in the meantime.
yeah,
So we'll come
Well,
back to you, Nitya.
sure.
or maybe she completes and then I can take that question. That's
Okay,
okay. I think she was in the middle
go
of.
ahead.
Yeah, so I think I was talking about the roles.
You were
So
talking about the
actually,
pre-sales role.
yeah, so in pre-sales, you have to suggest the solution to the
Correct.
client end to end, and what kind of licenses and what kind of product they need to buy. That is one of the role. And sales is somewhat declined in terms of data science project because you cannot do zero technical sales in this field.
Hmm.
So broadly, these are the roles. Apart from it, I will just to say two more terms. So in data science field, there are two more terms which are coming up. One is citizen data scientist and one is full stack data scientist.
Mm-hmm.
So full stack is who knows data engineering work as well. So data engineering plus data science. And citizens are usually business people who who learn a bit of data science for the purpose of their project.
Interesting. I didn't even know that these two terms exist. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a new one. Yes.
that's it.
Yeah.
Cool. Uh, yeah.
So Ajay, any recommendations for this for Sonal? How can they get into analytics 20 years down in their career?
20 years is that what you said?
Yes. So
Wow. Okay.
she's been in supply chain management and she's completed a MIT's course on SCMX, which covers data analytics and looking for mid-career change.
Right. So I think, I mean, broadly what I can suggest is that, we spoke about some of the roles, even Nitya, mentioned specifically about these roles. I would suggest that if, somebody has, for example, 20 years of experience, then probably they must leverage it in some way to be able to, connect it with data science. So for example, if she's done, sorry, for example, if she's been involved in pre-sales in that particular area, or even sales in her particular, in her previous role, I would suggest that she, moves in the pre-sales area in data science after learning, at least some amount of things here. Because see, to begin straight from, step one would be I believe, though I have had cases, I've had people connecting me where especially some women candidates who, for example, have been in the field for 10-15 years, and now feel that maybe they had a maternity break or something, and then they said, hey, now I want to get back, and I want to get into data science now to begin with. And in that scenario, sometimes they are even maybe they didn't have that senior positions when they left, so they are okay even beginning almost from the scratch. They say, okay, we'll catch up faster, maybe because of my experience, but I'm okay starting as a data analyst, so to say. I mean, if you want hardcore data science, beginning. So, but that means that you would have to dirty your hands with data, analyze it again, like we said, make visualization, visual charts, etc., and do that. Or else look at connected roles there. For example, like we said, client facing roles, or
So
program.
my tip to Sonal would be that Sonal, there are companies today that are doing extensive work in the supply chain space, and they are looking for people with experience to be able to help them understand the entire supply chain space and help them build use cases. So I was actually having a conversation with another person who I'll be bringing on to one of the recent future e-roundtables, who has built an entire business based on demand forecasting for supply chain. And they are one of the fastest. And, Sonal, if you want to message me or email, or I can connect you with this person, I think you should have a conversation with this person.
Yeah. So in fact, that could be an interesting one, because supply chain is obviously has been a lot data intensive, and is becoming even more.
Mm.
From that perspective, she can apply analytics in supply chain and look for companies which are in supply chain but are trying to introduce data in a much more intensive way.
Mm.
And there she can probably find roles which would help her.
So I'm just
Yeah.
sharing my email
One more
address with
question.
all the attendees. If
Yeah.
Sonal, you can feel free to write to me and I will try and connect you with.
So one question for you, Nitya, uh, that how do you see the roles in data science in India and vis-a-vis where in Singapore or other places outside India? Do you see that there is any particular track, or the way that careers are evolving, the demand for the type of work in data science? Is there a difference?
Till last year only, I was in India,
Hmm.
and I was in fact in a project with UNICEF.
Okay.
So the major difference I would say is definitely data keeping. So the countries who are very good at it, who had move first in
Hmm.
keeping their data and streamlining their data over the years, then today they can really leverage on it and actually carry out advanced level of projects on data science. Like in COVID times only in Singapore itself, they were very quick in implementing contact tracing apps and thermal detection of temperatures, face, everything. Like they were very quick on it. Obviously, the size of the country also matters. But again, the technological advancements and the technological capabilities they have developed previously, they are definitely leveraging it at this point. So other countries will definitely need to do the basic work first, storing the data appropriately, integrating various
Mhm.
systems. So unfortunately, during my PhD, in fact, I was looking at a lot of government data. So in fact, most of the Excel sheets were not in Excel format, but it was image, like a scanned copy which is uploaded online. So when such kind of data is there, it's very difficult to work on it,
Mm.
right? Additional tasks are involved.
So Nitya, I have another question for you, and I will, integrate it with a question from Atul Bhatnagar. So Atul is saying, should B schools become D schools now that data empowers business, right? So that's,
That is a
on a more
very
humorous side. But let me add to that, the what you studied at a business school, you went to IIM Indore. Did that actually prepare you for a data science job? And or is it something that the course is generic and then you have to actually have the aptitude and then take on from there? Which
Yeah.
of the two is better?
Mm.
okay. I'll answer the first part first.
Perfect.
So, first part is definitely the most like hot discussion going on everywhere, especially when I see that every B school is floating a course in data analytics now.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah. So I think they are also exploring this part that data is inevitable, and we have to teach our future managers to be, since they are decision makers, they have to be data driven decision makers now. So definitely there will be a flavor of it going forward in every management course. So if it will become completely data driven, I don't think so that will happen. But let's see what happens in the future. Regarding the PhD course, if it really helped me to be a data scientist, I would say that I had many colleagues, right, who were doing PhD with me. Not everyone turned out to be a data scientist. So what I would say is the previous experience to my PhD was again in big data in ETL, and that kind of gave me a vision like where this field is going, or I was constantly looking into it. As per PhD, we can imagine that a single person executing end-to-end project, from formulating the problem to collecting the data to writing the reports or thesis and the complete analysis. So unknowingly, every PhD student is doing a full end data science project. But of course, the tools and techniques are not that up to the industry level. They obviously use sometimes like R, which is not very much used in industry nowadays, which was used previously. So if a PhD need to turn into a data scientist, definitely there is a additional efforts to be put in to
Mm.
understand where the industry is heading, and just be open to learn those. And to say if we need a PhD necessarily to be a data
No,
scientist,
no,
oh,
that's
no.
so.
So
Ajay, a related question to you. What kind of people do you hire? Are you going to hire an MBA, or would you rather hire someone who has done a
Hardcore
intense
engineer.
course in software, or would you actually hire someone who is just a graduate with an aptitude for data? What are your thoughts? And I'm asking you this question also from the perspective of being a small entrepreneur. A
Yeah.
large organization may hire completely, their hiring strategy may be slightly different, but from a small entrepreneur's perspective, what is your view?
Right. So I'll so broadly I'll tell you we need three skills largely in such a role. One, like I mentioned, being able to be data savvy, should
Mhm.
be data savvy, comfortable with data, and I'm not even talking about analytical abilities and curiosity, because that goes without saying. One has to have that kind of a overall feel about data, be curious about it, look deeper, etc. So those are specific skills, and they are not to be missed. But
Mm.
talking about formal skills, so it is data analysis or data handling, technology. So coding nowadays, it's become pretty important. Being able to handle these open source codes, for example, cloud, etc.
Mm.
So this is second. And third, I would say, is communication and being able to explain what you're doing and being able to understand what somebody is telling you. So, or domain understanding. If you're working for a particular industry, how does that industry work? What data will make sense for them, etc. So these three. So we look for these rather than specific degrees, so to say, especially because being a smaller organization.
And how do you assess people for these three skills?
Sorry, how do I assess?
Yes.
so, so being a startup teaches you all these things,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly why I'm asking you, trying to learn from you.
Yeah, so for the data analysis and critical analysis kind of, or critical thinking skills, we do have small tests that we run on people, right?
Okay.
We have done that. We have also done coding tests wherever we felt that that would be important. So this is broadly what we look at,
So,
these two three
so
areas: domain understanding.
the people in your organization, I'm assuming, fall into these three significant categories. Is that correct?
Sorry.
The people in your organization fall into these three large categories. Is that correct?
Three means
You
the
just
three.
said, you
Data
said,
analyst. Yeah.
Yeah, so in a smaller setup, typically you would have people who would wear multiple hats.
okay.
So
And
you
how
one
is
would
it, how easy is it for people to sort of cross one hat to the other hat?
uh, depends on people, but I would say the domain understanding and communication, etc., and being able to understand the larger problem and being able to articulate it right is more MBA kind of a skill.
Hmm, hmm.
So which is more MBA-ish, more general understanding, more communication, etc. The other two are still more closer, if I were to say. Uh, but even within that, I have had people who are good at data but may not be very good at coding, so to say. And the other way around is also very, very common, where somebody is very, very good at coding, but you tell them, hey, there is this set of data, look at it and tell me what it is saying. They may not be happy doing it.
So
So
here's another question from Manik. He's a BBA MBA with 2 years in AI startup, and experience of data engineering, data science, and DevOps, and really interested in getting in the niche of ML ops. Any tips for him? He's actually specifically asking, how can I apply for such jobs?
they want to take it.
Yeah, so this person actually wants to move from what he has done in the last 2 years, which is in the area of data science, to ML ops.
BBA and
He's worked in data science, DevOps, and data engineering, and wants to move to ML ops, which I'm assuming is machine learning ops, right?
okay.
Any tips for him?
I would really say that if he's very much job oriented, then he should start looking at JDs of particular companies and particular geography that he's looking at, and then only align his skill accordingly.
Yeah, because
Rather than learning
my
any.
take would be that he will actually need to learn machine learning if he wants to get into ML ops, right?
Yeah, that is first thing. So
Right.
definitely learning is there. So next question
So
comes like what? There are so many
exactly.
courses.
Okay.
Right.
So Manik, what we'll do is if you send me a more detailed mail, and I can connect you with someone relevant who can guide you if you want. I think we don't have enough information right now to be able to answer this question very specifically. And happy to
He's doing
connect
AI
you.
ops. AI ops, Salil, what did he say? He's doing
ML
AI.
ops.
He wants to move from DevOps to ML ops.
Okay.
Okay, we'll take it offline, Ajay, and let Kavita come up with the next question.
Yeah. So my question was, and would like to hear from both of you. Maybe Nitya, you could share first. So, what do you think? People who are already in this field, how do they need to keep looking at their progression? What should you keep an eye out for in terms of how do I grow, invest in myself to be able to grow in this field?
That's interesting. So that is what probably I keep on thinking on any data scientist keep on thinking like how do you grow into this field?
Mm-hmm.
First is definitely that it's a very dynamic area. So that learning part need to be really high, uh, not just from the tools perspective, from tools and also the techniques that are coming up. Plus also the progression, as I told you about the roles that DE, data analyst, and then data scientist, pre-sales, and that's how you broaden your perspective not just from the technical front but from the industry knowledge as well. So a good data scientist is actually with a good amount of industry knowledge as well, who is able to suggest like what all can be done with the amount of data. So the more should be like technology plus functional knowledge, which will never go in vain, to actually get a touch base of as a general data scientist with multi-industry experience. Another way to grow is definitely in a single industry. Like if you're very good in supply chain or retail or healthcare, then go in a core company, probably like that, and specialize in their use cases and business cases, and be a master of one field kind of, and grow like that.
Hmm.
So Nitya, I have a question for you. You haven't worked in the industry per se, right? And now you're working in a data sciences space. Do you miss out on actually understanding the use cases, having not really worked in the industry? So, for example, if someone asks you to look at data from retail, right? If you've actually been on the field, understanding how FMCG retail works,
Hmm.
do you think it'll be easier for you to figure out, ways of looking at data, or otherwise, how do you do that?
For me, I think my thesis really helps me because in that I have touched upon various industries,
Hmm.
and so to say that functional part is taken care of. So whenever I see data from any other industry,
Hmm.
um, see, e-learning is very efficient right now, so I'm quickly able to read the industry report of that area and able to connect what variables are useful to the business user, and how can it be taken forward. So definitely I've not worked much in the industry, but previous to PhD I have worked. And now also I don't face much problem actually understanding the use case rather than the recent jargon of it. So the jargon has changed a lot. So in terms of, we don't call it business problem, we call it a use case. Um,
Same question to Ajay. Ajay, if you get a customer from a field in which you don't have experience, how do you handle that problem, and how do you jump in and sort of start
So
working?
I think the biggest skill that one develops in this space is being able to look at, be industry agnostic almost.
Okay.
What I say is, after a point one realizes that you're happier working with data. You don't. I mean, we take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and for example, we have had chances where we speak to the business guy for 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then we know, at least we broadly ask them, okay, what kind of data exists, and we
Hmm.
have some ideas in terms of what will be their business drivers, and then being able to connect that data to that business driver and say, okay, this is where we can help you, obviously in a conversation. That, I think that's the skill that comes with experience. So to your question,
Okay.
what could be the progression, it would be that. So once a person gets exposure to multiple industries, you have looked at different industries data, you have worked in, created some outputs, then that kind of experience comes, I think.
So just to extend this further, Ajay, is exposure to industry useful, or I'm sure your people without exposure to industry, are they useful, or would you rather have people with exposure to industry?
So it's depending on the task that you are assigning them, right?
Hmm.
So if I had somebody who's very good at analysis, etc., or creating an output,
Hmm.
then they would need the problem to be structured for them.
Hmm.
Then we structure the problem for them and we say, hey, you do this, and you create this, and then that's my problem, how I use it,
Hmm.
or how I present it to the client, for example.
Hmm.
So they are good at that. We use them for that. But then there are folks who are more industry savvy, and then they can take those roles as well. So
Okay.
we help them take those.
Okay.
These two different roles now exist, and I think they would, even with time, kind of separate out as this will progress.
So we have 5 more minutes. Any other questions from the participants? Please put it in the Q&A box or the chat box. Kavita, your next question, please.
Yeah, so I think that's more or less we've spoken about the number of different kinds of roles and the progression. So just one, and this is on the lighter side. So are the people working in the data science field, are they really very very geeky?
Yeah, yeah. Both these guys don't look geeky to me, so except for Nitya's
Thanks God.
glasses.
I can remove it.
No, I think she put them on specifically for the show.
No, I do have power.
No, that's fine. So yeah, please answer Kavita's question.
So I no, this is so this I think data scientist, as at least we are talking in this forum, doesn't exist without business, right?
Mhm.
It is done for a business. It is done for the real world. I
Hmm.
mean, obviously Nitya has done a PhD, and there maybe she would have chance to be more deeper and more disconnected with so-called business. But while one is working in the industry, I think one can't be a pure geek and still. I mean, you could still project an image if you want to, uh, but it doesn't go too far, especially in the business space. One so that is an important aspect. That is why it doesn't go without the domain and the business understanding. You
Okay,
can't just sit with
last
data
question.
Got it.
and create anything out of it.
Sorry, last question from Ritesh. Do you think our engineering and ICT curriculum is keeping up with rapid changes in data science field? And there's another one from Manik. As a person looking to apply for a role of data analyst, which skill should be highlighted in the CV? So maybe quick answer, and Nitya, maybe you can take the first one. Do you think that the course is keeping pace? And, Ajay, from the biodata perspective, tell them what you think should be.
So again, for the first question, the same answer, that do not rely completely on the college education. Nowadays, it is not the time for it.
Correct.
So learning barrier is almost zero. There are so many things online to learn. And, so just don't wait for the college to update the curriculum. Update yourself on the go every time.
Okay. Ajay,
Yeah. So on the
what do you want to see in the curriculum?
In their resumes. What do you want to see in the resumes of people who you would like to hire?
So the skills that we spoke about, right? The ease of handling data, that one should show that interest. A lot of times, that is not there, and somebody wants to become a data scientist. Then I ask them, is it the, I know it is, there is a lot of hype, but why do you want to move it? And the people, so it is. I think these things, experience of handling data wherever they have handled, some technologies we spoke about, cloud. There are a lot of algorithms that exist, and like Nitya was also saying, there is vast amount of problems, even open source problems that exist as well. Not just the technology. There are sites like Kaggle, where there are actual data sets and problems. One can go there, analyze it, create results, and mention it in their resumes. I think that really helps. If I see that, that tells me that the person has actual interest, and not just
Also, my tip will be to do an internship in the space where you get to work with data, etc. And that would be very valuable.
Step 2.
Okay, last question from Atul. Do you think robots will be able to crunch data better than humans? I'm going to answer that. Atul, absolutely. I don't think, robots will do a lot of things except for, being able to feel what's happening with the data. But, we can have that discussion online. I think Atul's question is, it's an interesting question, but I don't think we'll be able to answer that right now more than this. Kavita, any last words? We have 2 minutes. We've sort of just run out of time and like to finish on time.
Thank you very much, Ajay and Nitya. Very interesting conversation. And actually, you kind of demystified the whole thing for us. Right from what kind of people work there, what are the things that you end up doing. So it was very interesting to hear that. And I think looks like there is a lot that we can actually learn about, how do we get prepared for roles in data science. That's been quite an interesting takeaway for me from this conversation.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Nitya. Thank you, Kavita, for coordinating and making this happen and bringing us this wonderful topic. Thank you to all the participants. I hope you all enjoyed the session. Hopefully the questions have been answered. If your question is not answered, and if you have a question, drop me a mail and I'll connect you with Ajay, Kavita, Nitya, whoever you would like me to connect to. The recording of the session will be on our YouTube channel, which is with the name Images, IIMAGES. You'll find it hopefully by tomorrow. Our next session is next Friday. The next session is another conversation with the CEO. If some of you remember, we 3 weeks back we had conversation with the CEO of L&T Reality, which is available on YouTube. Our next session is with the ex-CEO of Dabur, Sunil Duggal, who was the CEO of Dabur for 17 years. So hopefully some of you will join us and come back and listen to what he has to say. And thank you again for joining. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.